Yes. Let's talk about the three leashes that Israel has over over the U.S. And just something seemingly totally irrelevant. This morning I saw a monologue and then by Sydney Sweeney, one of the hottest actors in Hollywood these days, together with the sisters of Fanny's family. That she was saying that she has an interesting point. He said that when she was little, and she made a 5 point plan to convince her parents to drive for like 19 hours from Spokane, Washington, all the way to LA for breaking into the show business. And then in the show, in the monologue, she was saying that also we have a plan B. The plan B is the showing the boobs. But I was just, I was laughing at it, but the point is the real. If you have a plan, if you have a control with multiple control, multiple forces, that always add to the chances of success. You know, so if you think about this, Sweeney, it's been went to Hollywood, and she like get into the audition and get an agent, get a contract, those kind of things. But meanwhile, she if she could show her boobs, that also helps, right? Because people are looking for, let's just say the reality is that in Hollywood is that the people are looking for your face and for boobs, so that's a reality. So if you, instead of getting a plan A and plan B, put them together in a package, that's more powerful. So here I've been saying that it's totally irrelevant, it looks like, but the same logic applies, that if one entity has a multiple way of controlling or impacting or influencing the other entity, then you have a better chance of success. Here, I've been wondering that why is Israel so powerful in the, so heavily impact the American foreign policy, international affairs. I came up with this three leashes, three ways for the Israel to controlling or impacting or influencing the American foreign policies. The first one is easy. I think the first two, actually, a lot of people mention that. Number one is that the money. It's open secret. You can check it online to find out that the 50 to 70% of Congress people are getting money from the Israel, pro-Israel entities. Okay, and like I said, the Israelis, they're very pragmatic. In fact, I've always wondered if Israelis are more pragmatic than Chinese. When I say pragmatic, meaning that they'll do anything as long as it brings up the practical gain. And for the Chinese, I think at least they would say that if every time I owe somebody for something that I will always try to pay back. So you can call that the kind of a loyalty, or but I wonder if Israel is even less loyal than the Chinese. They probably even say, well, I never ask for your help. I never ask for your support. You choose to do that, so I don't owe you anything. They may have that kind of a mindset. We never know. I'm just because I've never been to Israel, but. They just listed as one hypothesis. But anyway, so here there's three things. Number one is the financial. Israel, like I said, 50 to 70% of the congressmen are getting the money from the pro-Israel entities. And then, as always, that's when I bring up the point about being pragmatic. That the Israeli pro-Israeli entities, they are betting on both sides. So whether it's a Congress, or whether it's a Republican or Democrat, they give you, they basically assess they look at your chance of success. They decided to invest into you. Okay, so when you get into the office, you won't vote against Israel. So that's one thing. That's obviously. The other thing is human talent, human resources. Let's face the reality that how many staff members in the Congress or even White House, they are kind of they're kind of a Jewish people, but they sometimes they may be pro-Israel, right? And then a lot of the people, financial support, financial aid, um, financial endorsement may come up with the string attached that you have to, show your support to Israel when you get into the office. So those kind of things, the two things, human talent and financial resources, they heavily invested into the U.S. politics. That's why you often see, bipartisan support of Israel. You know, we had a Gavin Newsom yesterday said something right after he said something like calling Israel apartheid, and the next day he was apologizing that. So it's nothing comes from the sky. It's always something very pragmatic. Okay, something that on the ground that shaping people's attitude and their vote. Okay, so those kind of thing that we need to keep in mind. But there's one thing, the last number three things. It's even more important. That's just something that I'd like to call the Christian uh, Zionism, I think. So let's stop here because this is really big. It's involve the religious issues. It's go back to the all the time, and then I'm gonna talk about next time. I'm going to talk about why the American evangelicalism, which is doesn't it's not one denomination. It's a value of preferences that are cut across several denominations. It could be a Baptist, you could be a Methodist, you could be like a Presbyterian. So this is the kind of thing that I'll be talking about the southern state, something called the Bible Belt. So we'll talk about this because this is complicated.